So we're continuing the Sefer Tamid Imach. We're up to the third Shaila. Again, the derech of the Sefer is he'll have a Shaila, a theoretical Shaila and Hashkafa, and then he'll talk about it and he uses a launching pad. So the Shaila Gimel goes as follows. A person says, Ein li chiyas v'ratzon l'spalel. I have a hard time davening. Mitzvur b'sfar mekadashim, because the Sfarim talk about, the Chavos Avava says, that tefillah b'li kavana kaguf b'li neshama. That the person recognizes you're really supposed to have kavana when you daven. I recognize that just saying the words, it feels empty. And I just can't concentrate. My davening is I have a very difficult time concentrating. This line maybe some people don't appreciate. He says, and when I do daven properly, those days where I get really into it, I feel a little gaiva. I'm aware that people are looking at me. It's like, oh wow, that guy's really davening well. So that also takes away the proper kavana. And he noticed a phenomenon which I think any honest person notices, that when you're davening, your mind goes quicker than other times. During the day, sometimes you could sit, people watch a movie, they focus on the movie for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But when the davening Shemona Esrei, the 3 or 4 minutes, the brain mamish goes from this to that to that to that. I can't focus. That's the question that the person asked. So he begins with the first part of the response. Hey Nemes, it's true. While it's true that you're supposed to have kavana when you daven, and that's the essence of davening, is avodah shebelev. Avol im kol zeh, but that being said, etzem hadar shadam omer tevis hatfila, machas yediyase sheish bara olam. The very fact that a Jew stands by davening and says the words because he's aware that there's a creator of heaven who's listening to him, hatakif hakol yochol, and that Bari Olam has all the power in the world, he's kol yochol v'hatoiv, and he's ultimately good, yakabel zischar. The saying of the words of davening, the effort, with the awareness of why you're davening and to whom you're davening, that itself will bring reward, and that itself is an accomplishment. He begins the Rashba. He quotes by in Mailis HaTfilas Shel Kol Adam K'fi B'Chinasa. He begins by quoting a Rashba in Shuvas. The Rashba writes in Shuvas as follows: V'inin HaTfilah She'amar HaShoyel Ki Bilti HaKavana Nechsheves Ki Me'uma Lo'ovid Be'emes Ki Avoid Yisoid HaKol. The person sent a Shaila to the Rashba, basically saying that if I daven without Kavana, it's basically nothing. The Rashba responds: Aval Kavanas Rabbis. While it's true that it's definitely lacking in the proper kavana, it definitely takes away from davening, but there's definitely levels to davening. Obviously, having kavana means a lot to different people, and within that person, it could change from moment to moment of you thought you had kavana, and then the next minute you really have kavana, and it's obviously a myriad of levels. Right, my kavana, even my best kavana, is nothing compared to a bigger tzaddik, compared to Moshe Rabbeinu. But a level that every Jew can attain, you have to know there's a God in heaven, that created the world in his ratzon, kasher ratzon, and the same God gave the Torah to Klal Yisrael, b'Sinai, b'Torah's emes, chukim shvatim tzadikim, and we're serving him. And Hashem commanded that we give up our lives and be meiser nefesh to call him out in times of need. And we have to thank Hashem and there's to give thanks. And we ask of him things because he is in charge of everything. And he's in control of giving us schar. That is the basic kavana that every person, no matter what your level, you could attain that knowledge. And that's the mentality you should have when you daven. And even if someone is not learned, they could have that level. So understand to realize that while everyone says, oh, I need to have kavana, I didn't have kavana, there's levels of kavana, but this kavana everyone can attain. No matter how distracted you are, you could take a moment to think, I'm speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Kol Yochel. And even if someone doesn't pronounce the words properly, this is an interpretation of a word, doesn't have proper kavanah in what does Baruch Shamar mean, all that, but he's aware. That awareness, that's the foundation, and that itself is something you could really, really build on. And he ends off. And to think that if I can't daven like Moshe Rabbeinu, there's no purpose of davening. Chas v'shalom. Don't weaken yourself. Because then, if that's the case, then most of us will never have to daven. The only people that can daven are Chaim Kanievsky or Moshe Feinstein. It's ridiculous, says the Rashba. And therefore, to understand what is Iker Kavana, and then what's the cherry on top. The Iker Kavana is to be aware that there's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kol Yochol, and we're speaking to him, and he's able to give us anything. That's the Iker Kavana, and that every Jew can attain. Again, everything, the rest is just building on it. All right, we'll stop it. We'll pick it up tomorrow.